day 4 of my London holiday video blog, in which I did some more record shopping, received some VCLT, and of course went to the Divine Comedy gig, and made several attempts at recording this intro. Ahoy hoy everybody, and welcome to this video blog. Yeah, that intro took me about 8 attempts, just tripping over my words. It's not that early, but I've not been up long. Anyway, yes, so yesterday I went record shopping again. It was a bit of a nothing day, all will be revealed. So first port of call, as discussed in yesterday's video, was Camden. So headed up on the tube, which is a straight line, no changes or anything. It's always handy. Got off at Camden. Thought, right, I'll head up to the lock first for the record shop that's in the market at Camden Lock. So headed up that way. I thought, oh, well, since I'm that end, I'll have a little reminisce and just have a look at what used to be Prince's shop. He had a shop in Camden, just past Camden Lock. I'll say European branch, because it was the only one outside, the outside America branch, I can even say, because the only other branch was in Minneapolis. At the MPG store, which I visited twice, I think. Might only have been once. I've got no feeling it was twice. I think we went once. We went up to London pretty much specifically to go there, me and my friend, and then I went once before a gig, I think. But yeah, yes, it must have been, because when we went specifically to go there, I didn't really have any money, so all I bought was the Come album, I think, which had just come out. Yeah, anyway. So I went and found the shop where that was. There was, last time I went there was still a couple of telltale signs that it used to be Prince's store. The not banisters, the, what do you call it? The bit on the edge of the balcony that stops people falling off. The fencing type bit. Still have the symbols on. And inside, I went in and used the ATM. It was a convenience store at that time. And there was an ATM in there which I went in to use. And they still had a bit of a stained glass window there. Now, you wouldn't know unless you knew, if you sort of mean. It's the layout of when you go in, there's stairs down immediately to your right. Sort of give it away. But yeah, there's no signs whatsoever. That's what it used to be now. So I didn't take any pictures of anything. Walked into Camden Market. Did the route, A, because I didn't know exactly where the record the shop was. But B, just to have a mooch round, see what was there. So in the sights and sounds of Camden, which was fun. I did find this ATM. There was a few ATMs dotted about, and they all had money-related quotes from songs on, and this one obviously stood out for me. That's about the only picture you're getting this week, but today rather, apart from my view at the gig. Yeah, wandered round, eventually found a record store. I'm not convinced it was the one I was sort of looking for. There's one that has been there donkeys, we're talking 30 years at least. There used to be 3 or 4 music stalls there. I picked up a number of bootleg CDs there once. But I was expecting a bigger stall, and the guy running it wasn't the guy I thought ran it, if that makes sense. It might be that, a different guy was running it or looking after it, and it's just shrunk over the years. But I would have thought it would have got bigger with the current resurgence in vinyl. There was another shop It was a reggae shop that had some records outside as well. When I say it was a reggae shop, it was a reggae shop. I'm not being generalising or anything like that, but it sold reggae clothing and stuff like that as well as the music. But outside it had a few records. It was all dance and hip hop and stuff like that. They did have a little soul section. I did flick through that. They had one title that I didn't already have. I'd have picked up, which was a 12-inch single of Moni Love's Born to Breed, which Prince co-wrote and produced. But I've already got that, so I didn't bother picking that up. But then found the proper record store, and I didn't stay long. What was it? It was a rack, probably 2 persons width in between. Another rack on that side, rack at the back, and at the end of the sideways racks on the alleyway side, there were, what was it? Yeah, 2x2 tubs of records on each side. But the guy running it, he was on the phone to somebody moaning about customers, which is never a good thing to be doing. Even if, he had a fair point, he was just moaning about people asking him to, knock £10 off the price of a record and stuff like that, which is, taking the piss anyway. I agree, but you don't do that in front of other customers. And I think he was cleaning records, but he had them spread out all over the place, rather than just, all right, if he hasn't got room, which clearly he doesn't, he has to do it on top of the records, but the whole back section was spread out with records, plus half of the right-hand section, and he was covering half of the left-hand section, so you couldn't really browse. So I had a look at what I could, basically, which did cover a lot of my areas of collection. There was a little Prince section, but again, nothing in there, but a couple of bootlegs, but I don't collect Prince bootlegs on vinyl. I don't collect Prince bootlegs full stop anymore, but because I've got pretty much everything for a start, one way or the other. Yeah, a couple of bootlegs, but otherwise it was all just general, easy to find stuff. Most of, things like Elvis Costello and Madness and The Who. Kinks I couldn't get to because he'd covered it up. But, my sort of areas where I'm looking to complete collections, I managed to see most of those, and there was nothing that I wanted anyway. So I gave up, wandered back down towards the Tube and towards Parkway, which is where the shops I was talking about yesterday were, and spotted, I sort of knew roughly where it was, another record shop whose name I can't remember, and if I drag it up or if I can find it, I'll put it on the screen, which I'd read about in a best record shops in London article on Time Out, I think it was, and thought there'd be nothing for me there because it gave the impression that it was all, well, that's a lie. I thought that there would be little for me there because I read that it was all reggae and stuff with a little bit of soul and funk, and so I thought, oh, well, there's the soul and funk, so I'll pop in anyway, which I did. And actually there was a lot more sort of general rock and pop and what have you than advertised, if you like, which was good. It's only a small shop. It's probably about what you can see on this camera, the size of the shop, if you see what I mean. Ignore the rest of the room going that way. It's probably from sort of just off screen here, width, and about the depth. So not big at all. Records all around the outside, and an island in the middle with a counter at the back. And it was quite busy when I went in. There was a group of 4, I think it was, American late teens, early 20s in there looking round. Was it 4 girls or 3 girls and a guy? Not that it matters. one of whom was probably looking for specific stuff for her boyfriend, which she ended up buying the Stone Roses debut album, a new copy of. She was also after some Peter Gabriel, but it wasn't so. That's all I know. Then 2 or 3 other people looking. So it was a bit of a case of sort of dive in where you can, when you can, to look. But I went round, they had what they called 70s rock and pop, and it was sort of A to Z with certain, Beatles section, the usual. But 70s rock and pop was basically anything that wasn't funk and soul or reggae or stuff like that. So there was 80s stuff in there, there was 90s stuff in, Stone Roses was in the 70s rock and pop. Or was it? Or was that MEA? No, there was a little indie section at the start. I lie. There was a indie section at the start, and that was in that. But in the 70s rock and pop, there was Simply Red, for example, stuff like that. So it wasn't all 70s, and some of it was earlier. But I went through that. The only thing I was tempted by, really, was they had the Queen's News of the World box set, which I need for the collection. But it's not an album I absolutely love, so that's why I've sort of not bit on the box set of it. And it was £75 because the box was damaged. I was tempted, but I couldn't remember, because it's still available new on the Queen web store, and I couldn't remember how much it was selling for on there, and I couldn't be asked to look, basically. So I left it behind. It was a bit, £75 is, it was sort of top end of what I was ready to spend on anything, full stop, really. So left that behind. The soul and funk section was quite decent. I'm trying to remember if I had any Prince in there, and if so, where. I think they had a couple of bits. I think it was in Rock and Pop. No, I think it was in the soul and funk. I think they had sort of general stuff, and then they had a little rack of artist-specific bits, and I think there was a couple of bits in there, but again, it was nothing that I needed, nothing rare. They've had a few James Brown titles, but they seemed to be all compilations. I want to try and pick up original albums. I think they had one original album, but it was a mega expensive one, which is not what I want from James Brown. I don't want to be paying loads of money for his stuff. But yeah, so I left there empty-handed is the short version. They had a soundtrack section. I went through all that and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, left there, headed back down to Parkway, wandered down. It was now 12:40ish, and I knew that the record shop and the charity record shop were both opening at 12. So I walked down there, and they were both closed. So, as I sort of turned around to walk back, I saw that the record shop, the normal record shop, the punk record shop, the guy was opening it, literally, coming in from outside to go in, not even opening it up to the public. Then, so I wasn't wasn't really interested in that shop because it's not one for me. But the charity shop I was interested in, but it wasn't worth waiting, going away and coming back for. So I was quite peckish, even though it was still quite early. I thought I'll have an early dinner. And I'd spotted the previous day when I went to the zoo that there's a Wendy's there. So Wendy's, the big American burger chain, has, I think, 6 outlets in the UK. And I think Reading, 2 in London, and I can't remember where the other ones were. I think they were further north. So it's not somewhere I've ever been because, don't have the opportunity. And last time I was in Camden was, probably about 10 years ago. And it wasn't there then, obviously. So I thought, right, I'm going to try a Wendy's. So I went in and it was quite straightforward. It was screens to order and pay, although they did have a counter as well, although it wasn't manned when I went in, but somebody went over there whilst I was waiting. And, you know, just like most burger joints, you wait till your number's called and pick it up, and then there's a sitting area upstairs, or obviously you could have it take away when you ordered. So I went for the Baconator, the Baconator combo. So that was, and what I liked is that it was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Customizable. That's what the word I'm looking for. So first of all, you know, so you selected, right, I'm having a Baconator combo. What size? Big one, obviously, because I'm a fat bastard. Okay, so here's the burger. Anything you want to add, and it listed what you could add and the cost. Anything you want to take out, and again, it listed what was in there. So no, just as is. I want to, you know, see what they taste like. Then, right, what do you want to decide? So fries. There's a untopped jacket potato. I can't remember what the other options were, but there was a decent, there's about 10 options you could have as your side with it. And then for your drink, even, it came up, you could either have from a drinks fountain, you could have, they looked, I couldn't decide whether they were sort of thick shakes or whether they were ice cream, sort of McFlurry type ice creams. They looked more like McFlurry type ice creams, but they were coming up with the drinks, so I couldn't quite tell. It was either chocolate or vanilla of those, which I nearly went for, but decided on a drinks fountain. Then, all the hot drinks, and I think there was juice available as well. Decent selection. Again, probably a dozen or so items that you could choose from, which I thought was very good. But yeah, as I say, I went for a drinks fountain, picked up a burger. So first of all, I went to the drinks fountain, and it was the Coke family. So because I can't have caffeine, says he drinking a caffeinated coffee, because that's all. Well, I fancied a coffee today rather than hot chocolate, so I'm risking having one caffeinated coffee. Why is this so long when I didn't do anything? Sorry, people. Basically, what I'm getting to is the drinks. So I went for an orange Fanta, but then you could add flavours to it. I can't remember what the first one was, but then it was raspberry or vanilla. Now, I love vanilla. So I added vanilla to my orange Fanta, and it was the nicest drink I've drunk in years. It was delicious. That's what I'm getting at there. Fries were really nice. They're skin-on fries, lightly seasoned. They were very tasty. The burger was delicious. It's that far away from being my favourite fast food burger. See, I love a Burger King bacon double cheeseburger. That's the pinnacle for me. And this was, as I say, a gnat's away from it. The only thing that stopped it being better than a bacon double cheeseburger was the actual burgers. They do square burgers for some reason. I'm sure they've got some scientific excuse for it, which is bollocks probably. But yes, they do square burgers. So I thought, why is this so delicious? So I tried a bit of a burger on its own, and it was nice, but it was sort of just a normal burger. It had nothing special. It wasn't flame grilled, which is what makes obviously the Burger King one special. It was probably wasn't as seasoned as a McDonald's patty, which is probably texture is nice, yeah. But I'd say comparing it to McDonald's and Burger King, it was probably the actual patty itself was probably third, because it needed a bit more seasoning. So it wasn't that made it special. So I thought, right, I'll try the bacon. There was a sweetness basically to the burger, which I absolutely loved. So I tried a bit of a bacon on its own. The bacon was really, it wasn't so crispy that you could sort of just snap it, but it was crispy enough that you could sort of tear a bit off, sort of jerky type texture. So I tried that on the stone, wondering whether it had a sweet cure, or, you know, or a maple cure or something like that on it. And it was slightly, but it wasn't that. So all I could decide in the end was that it was the ketchup and the mayo mixed together. It must have been a particularly sweet ketchup or something, but it was delicious. As I say, it was so nice. If it had Burger King burgers in it, it would top a Burger King bacon double cheese, because there's so much bacon in it as well. I think there's 8 rashers of bacon, half a pound of meat, patties, plus with cheese and with ketchup, and it was a nice bun as well. Yeah, really nice. So nice that I'm highly tempted to go back there today and have another one. I probably won't, though, because it's going to be out my way if I do. But yes, if you're ever near a Wendy's in the UK, in the US, I presume you all know what a Wendy's is like, but I do highly recommend it based on that. So then decided I would go to Islington to go to Flashback Records, which is ones I was talking about yesterday. So looked up where exactly that was, saw that I could find it easily. So I hopped on the tube to Angel, got out and walked up to Flashback Records, and I bought some records. It was a nice shop. So it's on 2 levels, decent size. I'd say it's probably... this isn't going to help you unless you've ever been there. But the top floor was probably a slice of vinyl plus a half again. And then the same downstairs. Yeah, I'm trying to sort of... I can't. But it was a decent... It was, a proper wide shop, basically. Yeah, it's hard to say, but it was a big shop. Upstairs was all new vinyl, plus CDs, I think. Don't quote me on that. And DVDs and Blu-rays they sold as well. I didn't look at those. And then downstairs was all the used. But so I headed downstairs. They did have just at the top of the stairs, they did have a little bit of new arrivals, which was a mixture of both new and used. So I went through that first. Went downstairs. Directly in front of the bottom were hip hop and some. I don't think they called it R&B because I think it was 90s R&B or noughties R&B, that sort of R&B, if you like. Was all there. They did have a sealed copy of one of the reissues of Alicia Keys' debut album, Songs in A Minor, and they were asking 80 quid for it, which I thought was a lot of money. Right, it's sealed. I think it was the 10-year anniversary edition, but I paid $29.99 less discount, I think, for a near mint copy of that from Human Chemistry. So 80 quid sounded a lot for a sealed copy. Might not be, but it's not something I needed to buy anyway, because I've got a copy. Well, I've got 2 copies on vinyl because I've got the new issue. I'm waffling, sorry. So I flicked through that. Then you went down some stairs to the main bulk of the shop. Counter was on your right then. So then you had singles. So I had a look at the relevant sections there. Nothing I needed. Then rock and pop, A to Z with, Beatles sections, etc., etc., the usual. Then 50s rock and roll, indie, and it was proper indie. It wasn't, Britpop type indie. It was proper independent labels, but full of bands that you've never heard of, if you see what I mean. It was proper indie, if you like. As I say, what was next? Problem is, there's sections that I'm not interested in, so I sort of skip around them, and it's remembering where those were. I can't remember what the next section was. Then you had a classical section, And at the end of that was spoken word, comedy, soundtracks. I had a John Barry stroke James Bond section and I got excited. But there's a couple of John Barry compilations that had a load of the Bond stuff on. But I've got so many of those already. I had Diamonds Are Forever, which I need on vinyl, but without a cover. So, bugger. Yeah, I'm not buying that. But that was the only Bond I had in there. And then normal. You know, the rest of the soundtracks. So flick through those, nothing that I was interested in. Then in the they had a central table, if you like, but it was big. Which had jazz, blues, I think. There's another bit there of stuff that I wasn't interested in as well. But then eventually, anyway, it had... I think it was, you know, dance and house and that sort of stuff. But then they had... I can't remember exactly what they called it, but it was soul, funk, 60s R&B, that sort of stuff. Section that went through A to Z, turned corner, and there was more, and there was a Prince section as well. But again, there was nothing in the Prince section. Again, a couple of bootlegs, plus common stuff or associated artist common stuff. But nothing I needed there. But I did pick up 3 titles anyway. So I will show you those. 10p for a branded bag. So in the rock and pop A to Z, in the Beach Boys section was Light Album. I think that's the official title of it. Yeah, LA brackets Light Album. For, as you can see, $4.99. Sleeve is in good condition. A little bit of wear at the top. But otherwise, pretty minty for a however old album this is. 1979. 33-year-old album. Original inner, which again is near mint. And then I didn't check the records, to be honest. They were chatting away to some American guy all the while I was there. He was clearly lonely. He was on holiday. You know, he sounds like he's travelling around Europe, and he was very lonely, and he was chatting away to them. Yeah, a couple of, you know, really light scuffs. There's... Oh, that's just come off anyway. Yeah, that's going to clean off anyway on there. The mark there. On Caribou Records, is it? I mean, it's Brother Records, but... Well, it doesn't say Brother. Yeah, I think it's Caribou Records. The label. So yeah, really pleased to have that. They did have a couple of others that I needed, but there are ones on You Slice of Vinyl have got, so I'll pick them up when I go in there with Craig on Wednesday. Unless he sold them in the meantime, but the Beach Boy stuff doesn't tend to sell. So yeah, $4.99, really happy with that. And then in the Soul and Funk section, I picked up a couple. Stevie Wonder, The 12-Year-Old Genius, recorded live, including Fingertips Parts 1 and 2. So, it's 1963, but I think this is a reissue. Yeah, it is. So they have put on a LP reissue, very good plus, Stevie Wonder, Soul Funk. 180? It's not 180 gram vinyl. Not quite sure what that means. $6.99. EMI bag, correct, because they distributed Motown over here. Yeah, again, a couple of light marks, but nothing that's going to affect play. Yeah, it's definitely later vinyl. Yeah, it's stamped inners rather than not inners, you know what I mean. run out markings. No, I can't see a date on there for a reissue. Probably 80s. It's got that feel to it. But yeah, for the Stevie Wonder collection. And then for $7.99, I can Tina Turner, Nutbush City Limits. I've got a few of Tina's solo works. And have been, you know, wanting to get some of her earlier stuff. Just making sure it was the right one, you know, that had what I wanted on it. So this is 1973 album. Just spotted the tape around there. Don't know if that's fixing a split or something. But this has got, obviously, Nutbush City Limits on it. It's also got River Deep Mountain High. So, I thought this would be a good one to grab. Not the original inner, but polyline, so that's appreciated. I'm guessing it's an original. There might be a reissue. Yeah, again, a light, funny looking mark on that one. It might even clean off. Might just be, you know, sort of a watermark. Little bobble on the edge of the vinyl. But it's on the running groove anyway. Yeah, a couple of light marks, but nothing that's going to affect play by the looks of it. That's it, that's all I picked up in there. So they've got 3 branches in London. And the plan was, I thought, oh, I'll go to their Shoreditch branch. But then when I sort of looked at the easiest way to get there, and the short version was there wasn't an easy way to get there. With the tube and what have you, it was all very, you know, go here, then change for there, then change for there on this line, and then walk this far, and it was just, I started heading there, got as far as Moorgate, had a look on the map at Moorgate, and thought, actually, that's walkable. It's only, I think it was 1.3 miles away. I thought, well, I can do that, no problem. Even though my feet are hurting from overwalking these few days. So I started heading there, and sort of had a look on my phone, and it said it would take 25 minutes to walk, which I thought, well, no, it doesn't take me 25 minutes to walk 1.3 miles, but given that I don't know the direct route, and I'm following my phone, it might take close to that. So then I worked it out. I thought, right, so that's, say, 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back. That would basically mean I only got 20 minutes in the shop before I'd have to leave to make sure I got back, to get back here in time to get ready to go to the gig. So changed my mind and headed back to the station and came back here. So that's what I'm doing today, because the Wandsworth Road, I'm going to say tube station, but it's actually an overground station. There is a direct line there to Shoreditch. So I will do that and have a look around Shoreditch today is the plan. I don't know, it's Sunday, so I'm not quite sure how much will be open, but the record shop is definitely open. So that's today's plan. Other than that, don't know what I'm going to do. So yes, came back here, got ready, headed to the Barbican. As I was sat here, I checked my emails, and I had one from Stuart, who is a subscriber, who some of you may remember 18 months, 2 years ago, quite a while ago now anyway, very kindly sent me a slightly damaged copy of the Mo-Fi edition of Carole King's Tapestry. He just, he'd splashed out on this Mo-Fi edition, and when he'd received it, the first track on side 2, I think it was really badly damaged. So he got in contact with the seller, who sent him a replacement and told him to keep the original. So I'd just done my first listen to that and loved the album, and he got in touch and said, you won't be able to play this track, but you're welcome to it. And I said, well, thank you very much, and he sent it to me. And I had an email from him saying he was at Thursday night's gig, Casanova and Short Album About Love, how much he enjoyed it. He was also going tonight, and he had another spare record for me, basically. So he'd ordered the picture disc version the new Muse album, mainly just because it was a Zoetrope and it looked really cool. And the shop sent him 2 copies, and when he got in touch with them, they told him to keep the second copy. So he didn't want it, you know, it was taking up room on his shelves, and we all know how valuable that room is. And he didn't particularly love the album, so he certainly didn't want 2 copies of it anyway. Would I like it? And if so, he'll bring it with him, and we can meet up in the interval, and he'd give it to me. So I thanked him profusely, told him where I was sitting. He'd already told me where he was sitting, and arranged to meet him. So we did, basically, in the interval. I spotted him coming in just before the gig started. I thought, I bet that's him. Obviously I was looking towards his seat anyway, and I've worked out roughly where it was, but he was carrying a bag, and I thought, yeah, I bet that's him. And sure enough, at the interval, standing ovation at the interval, so I stayed standing and waited for everybody who was going out to clear, ready to head round to him, and suddenly he appeared in front of me. He'd headed to me instead, which was probably easier because he was in the middle of a row, whereas I was sat, as you will see in a second, right at the front of the slopey section, so there was nobody in front of me. But yes, Stuart came over, introduced himself, we shook hands, he gave me the record, I thanked him profusely, we had a short little chat, then he went outside for a fag, basically. He gave me the record in a tote bag, which you'll see in a second. I said, oh, don't you want your bag back? He said, no, keep it. Add it to your collection. His local record shop, which was very extra kind. And I hadn't sort of looked in, and then he reappeared just before the end of the interval. Said, did I leave my cap in that bag? So I had a look, and he'd left his cap in my bag. So I gave him his cap back. But yes, so he gave me this Vinyl Hunter tote bag. And this is Muse's new album, Will of the People. Work out how this bag. I see, it's one of those. So that's the sleeve. So I like Muse to a degree. I've got is the album called Nights of Sedonia? Yeah, if it's not, the album has got that on it anyway. On CD, that's all I've got. This is the, as I say, the picture disc Zoetrope version. Limited edition of 8,000. This is number 7523. And he's put it all in this nice bag and MoFi inner sleeve and what have you. Or whatever these are called, master sleeve. Yeah, he said it doesn't sound great being a picture disc, but it looks cool going round basically. So yes, Zoetrope. If I had a turntable here, I'd stick it on and film it, but obviously I haven't. If I remember, I'll do that when I do my vinyl roundup at the end of the month. If I remember. But yeah, very, very kind. Thank you again, Stuart. Hugely appreciated. As for the gig, excellent again. So yes, as I say, I was sat G61, so it was just to the right of where I was on, I'm getting days confused, what are we now? We're on Sunday today, aren't we? Friday night. About, what was I, 69 then, so 8 in towards the stage from that, and the row down, which as I say was the front of a slopey bit of the stalls. Excellent view, probably the best view I've had so far. I could see most of the musicians, apart from the cellist. The saxophonist I could only see depending on where Neil was stood. And I couldn't really see Simon, the bass player. But yeah, good view. Here is the obligatory photo. And Neil was on chatty form, particularly in the second half. So first up we had Absent Friends. It was interesting because it was Absent Friends and Victory for a Comic Muse, which are two albums that both contain some of my favourite Divine Comedy songs, but both also contain some of my least favourite Divine Comedy songs. So they're interesting albums for me, and it was interesting hearing them, done that way. So Absent Friends, the first half of the album is faultless for me, and then it goes downhill a bit in the second half. But even the tracks that I'm less keen on, I love all of Divine Comedy stuff. We're talking, 8.5s, 9s instead of 10s, basically. But those lesser tracks, hearing them live with, the strings and the brass, sort of elevated them in my estimation as well. There were some wonderful moments there. And then for Victory for the Comic Muse, again, it's definitely an album that sort of tapers off a little at the end. But again, the same applied. There was, the lesser tracks were definitely elevated with the arrangements and the additional instruments live. Obviously, I've got those on the record anyway, but, the power of it live. But particularly for Victory for the Comic Muse, Neil was chatty about the songs, what they were about, how they came about. He even explained, explain is probably not quite the right word, but spoke about why the album has that title at the start. It was proper chatty Neil. A couple of the tracks on Victory are about this ending of his marriage. I don't think they were divorced at that point, but I think, the marriage was crumbling. And you could really see him, even though, he's found a new love since and he's extremely happy, he's still very good friends with his first wife, Orla. And you could see one of the tracks, Light of Day, I think it was, at the end he said, that was a tough one for lots of reasons. And I thought, yeah. And then at the end, the last track, Snowball in Negative, I'm pretty sure I saw him wipe away a tear at the end of that. Very, very clearly difficult songs for him to sing. So yeah, it was an emotional night, and there's a couple of tracks on those albums that even struck me, I was starting to well up on a couple of points, just from, the emotions of the song and the beauty of the songs. Yeah, quite an emotional night, really, with regards to that. But magnificent, again. And Encores, so they came on and they did, after about 3 or 4 full starts, they did Gin Soaked Boy, which got everybody up and dancing and singing. And then we had a choice. They'd planned to do National Express, but Neil said, I'm going to let you choose. There's two songs, really, that we could do here. You know which two they are. Which ones do you want? Cheer if you want National Express. About a third of the auditorium cheered. Or cheer if you want Tonight We Fly. And everybody else cheered, so we included myself. I love National Express. It's got that. I mean, I've heard Tonight We Fly as much live as I've heard National Express, if not more. Probably more now. Yeah, definitely. But National Express has got is that song. I'm sure most of you have got that song by your favourite artist that you feel has been stolen from you by the general public as a whole. Sort of like, with Prince, it's probably Purple Rain, It's the song identified with that artist, and it doesn't feel like the fans' song anymore. Even more so with National Express, because when the album came out, it was sort of that secret magnificent track on the album. It was the 4th single, I think. It was the last single from the album anyway, so the general public didn't get to hear it for ages. So all that time, it was a great fun song, but when they performed it live, the fans loved, then everybody else loved it as well, and it sort of lost that little something. So yes, I love the song, and I love hearing it live and the fun they have with it, but it is, you know, it's no longer the fan song, it's the general public song. Whereas Tonight We Fly is very much a fan favourite song, but it's a perfect end to any Divine Comedy gig. So I think that's why most people cheered for that. So we got another fantastic version of Tonight We Fly. 8 albums down, 2 to go. Last 2 tonight. Probably the 2 albums I know least. So it'll be interesting. Bang Goes the Knighthood. I think there's only 3 or 4 tracks on there I've ever heard live. Foreverland I've heard most of live because I saw them twice on that tour. It was in 2 stages, that tour, and went to a gig on each stage. And the set list was very different between the 2 as well. So a lot of the songs were covered on that. Between most tours. Yeah, certainly Bang, which is an album that I had little time for originally, but has grown a lot on me lately. That's going to be interesting to hear live. There'll be less singing along from me because don't know as many of the lyrics on those 2 albums. But I'm front row, pretty much in the middle, not quite, but closest to the middle I've been. So it's going to be really good. Looking forward to it. So yes, plan for today, as I say, head to Shoreditch in a bit. No, I'm not in any rush. If that's all I do today, that's all I do today. Being a direct line, I might literally just go up, do that, see how long I spend in Shoreditch, and if it's a reasonable length of time, then just come back here. I would say it'll be a shorter video, but this is meant to be a shorter video, and we're at 3/4 of an hour plus already. So I'm going to end it now. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.